24th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we talk about the board game Shadows Over Camelot.
Camelot.
It's only a model. Shh.
Let's do this.
So before any of you in the forum get onto some sort of flame war about this, since you've been fighting about everything lately, mountain biking is a sport.
It is indeed.
And I bring it up only because if I talk about mountain biking, I am sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that half you people are going to make a whole thread about it. It's not a sport, blah, 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 direct competition, blah, even though, yeah, direct competition. But anyway, I've been mountain biking and biking for most of my life, pretty much forever. And this summer, I decided, all right, I haven't been biking so much in the last few years, and I really want to get it back. Why don't I just go buy a brand new bike? I'll buy like the best goddamn bike. I mean, I got money now.
The best goddamn bike is $1 billion. You got to buy
the best goddamn bike that isn't a professional like cyclist bike, because those things can be $10,000-$15,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't need that. I don't need a bike that costs more than my car when I bought it new.
No, you need like an $800 bike.
Well, here's the thing. So back when I was riding, bike technology was a lot different. I mean, we're talking 14 years ago when I got this bike. This bike still works barely. But I decided, all right, maybe I'll get one of those full suspension bikes, because I know there's pros and cons. Back then, it was mostly cons. They just sucked. Pretty much, they'd bobble all the time when you rode, so they slowed you down. They were a lot heavier than normal bikes, all these problems. But now, they should be pretty good. So I decided to go to a bike shop. And I walk in, and I'm like, yeah, what's the best full suspension Schwinn you got? And he said, don't care, Schwinn, yeah? I was like, why the hell not? Schwinn is like the best bike. And he's like, yeah, Schwinn was the best bike a decade ago. Now Schwinn sells in Walmart.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you ever, I should find the link again for that lawnmower story. There's a guy who made high quality lawnmowers. Walmart wanted to buy his lawnmowers to sell them in Walmart. They said, you're going to have to reduce the quality so we can lower the price. He said, hell no, I'm going to stay my high quality ways. Schwinn obviously did the opposite and said, hell yes, Walmart money.
Actually, what it looks like Schwinn did is they didn't, their high-end bikes are still as high-end as they were before, I guess, relatively. They just introduced all these low-end bikes that have the Schwinn logo stuck all over them.
It's weird. It's like when I was a kid, bike brands were like Schwinn and Huffy, and now bike brands are
Cannondale,
Trek and Cannondale and
Specialized.
Or
Specialized, I don't know.
Whatever.
I knew.
It's interesting though that there's such competition and change in the bike making industry.
Little things
nice.
Like when I bought my bike way back. Well, when my dad bought my bike.
Yeah.
Disc brakes were this crazy, stupid thing that no one but idiots who were super rich had on their bikes.
Pretty much.
Now, pretty much any mountain bike worth a damn has disc brakes. Otherwise, it's almost useless and actually really dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't really dangerous.
Yes, they
before
were.
They invented
Yes,
disc
they
brakes.
were. They were stupidly dangerous. People just put up with it. Here's the deal. Oh God, I don't want to turn this into the bike show, but all right. I'll only talk about brakes.
His linear pull and there's the horseshoe and the disc.
No. Linear pull was the newest one of those kinds. There was the horseshoe pull, there was the side pull, all these different kinds of brakes.
Yep.
And the linear were pretty much the best, but they still go on the rim. And that makes them completely stop working if the rim gets wet or you go through mud.
Yep.
Disc brakes continue to work. That's really key when I don't know, mountain biking out in the wilderness.
I mean, stuff could get in a little disc thingy, but it's a lot less likely.
And even when stuff gets in there, it deals with it a lot better.
Yeah, plus the radius of the disc is much smaller than the radius of the rim, so it'll be quickly cleaned off.
The real key, though, just in case anyone's curious, why disc brakes are necessary, just in case you wondered, is, well, one, if you're biking, you really should only be using your front brake. And if you're using your rear brake all the time, then you never learn how to bike properly. But two, if you're going downhill with normal brakes, they'll heat up and stop working. Kind of like if you're in a cheap car with old drum brakes or like crappy brakes. And you're going downhill and you kind of ride the brake the whole time instead of downshifting. Your brakes won't work when you get to the bottom.
Yeah, on most bikes, the brake is this two pieces of rubber that gets squished up against the rim. So if you just hold the brakes down and you're going really fast down a hill, the wheel keeps spinning and spinning and spinning, and you're slowing down, but you're not stopped
yet. The sky keeps on turning.
Okay,
Sorry.
and the pieces of rubber on the brake heat up from all the friction and they melt and they get, they're not hard anymore. They get
Not to mention the
squishy.
fact that my rims haven't been straight for about 6 years.
Yeah.
Which
That
only makes
it
things
even worse. So they
but-
turn into liquid and you can't stop.
Yep. But to skip all that, it was like, all right, I'm going to go buy a brand new bike. And I talked to this bike guy, and I was pretty much like, so I haven't known anything new about bikes for a decade. And he's like, all right, well. And he taught me all about what's going on now with bikes. And then I was like, and I didn't even look at the prices. I looked at the Schwinn's, and a high-end hardtail Schwinn was under $1,000. Like, fully loaded. So I'm like, all right, this can't be that bad. So I'm there, and I'm looking, and he's like, well, test ride this one. This is pretty much the best full suspension bike we have. And I rode it around, and it was absolutely amazing. It was like night and day. Like, riding
Well,
this
it's the
bike.
kind where there's like only half a fork in the front.
Yeah, it
and
had a lefty made out of carbon fiber. The thing weighed so little, I could pick the whole bike up with 2 fingers.
Yeah.
Like, up. And it was great. And I rode it around the parking lot, and I took it to some trails, and I'm biking around, and it was a transcendent experience. Though it was a little weird because the full suspension, like, it had this brain thing, like an inertial damper that could tell if I was putting the pressure on it, like if I was trying to jump, and would lock the suspension, but it would unlock it if the bumps came from the bottom. It worked. It was scary how well it worked.
A lot of those things are kind of... See, the thing is, there's a lot of bikes where they have all the fancy features,
Yep.
but they also have some gimmicky features to get rich people who don't know any better to...
Case in point, the automatic transmission.
Yeah. Well, automatic transmission bikes have a purpose and a place, but not on a
No, they
mountain
don't.
bike.
Not yet. Not on any bike.
No, if you're on like a, lazy person, doesn't
No.
want to bother switching gears going around the city
No,
bike.
yeah, a lazy person city bike has an internal 3-speed.
Yeah.
Not an automatic transmission with a complicated mechanism.
Anyway.
Anyway, so I walk back in and I'm like, man, that bike's great. I want it. And he was like, all right, let me figure out how much it costs. Because it wasn't just like, there's no sticker on it. He has to go figure out how much it costs based on what specific like model and make it was. And he comes back and he's like, well, it's 6,000. And I was like, all right, never mind, dude.
Usually the craziest bike in the store is something like 4,000,
If he had
6,000.
said, I don't know, if he had said like $2,000, I might have just bought it.
That's 2 Aeron chairs.
Yes, that is a crazy amount of money. I might have regretted it, but I might have just bought it because that was in the realm of expectation.
Yeah.
When he said 6,000 and he wasn't done
I was
saying,
like, I could buy a motorcycle. Why would I buy a non-motorcycle for motorcycle money?
motorcycle, I could buy 3 of my current car. I could buy 6 Aeron chairs.
What? You could buy 18, probably 20 PS3s.
You know what? I could buy a hell of a lot of video games.
Sure as hell could.
So instead, I said, all right, well, I'll be back. And I test rode a whole bunch. I spent the whole day there test riding bikes.
He was probably like, go home, kid.
No, because he pretty much was like, I'm going to sell this guy a bike.
He didn't.
No, he didn't. Not yet. But the thing is, I did all this test riding.
Was there anyone else there besides you?
Yeah, the bike store was rocking, actually.
Yeah.
They have like 8 salespeople and like all these other techs. And it's a really good bike store.
Yeah. Is
Pretty
that the
much-
one that's way out there by the airport?
Yeah. That's really the only good bike store
Well,
in
there's the
Dutchess
one
County.
that's closer, the wooden one with the old guy.
Yeah, and there's the other one that went out of business.
That's the same one as the old one with the old guy, only it's a different branch.
And the ski house claims to be an authorized Schwinn dealer, but I'm dubious.
Well, I'm not going to the ski house for a bike house.
I'm going there for skis, but actually it's getting about time to get some skis.
Uh-huh.
But I was inspired by how expensive bikes are to repair my old bike yet again. And I took it out riding yesterday. I biked around town. I did some trail riding, and then I went across the Newburgh Beacon Bridge and back. And on the other side, I saw a mansion for sale for not that much money, and I'm really curious. But that's a story for another time.
It's probably haunted.
You know how awesome that would be?
Pretty awesome.
One, James Randi would pay for the mansion.
No, he wouldn't.
Yes, well, once I proved it was haunted, he'd give me $1 million.
You would
and I'd pay
fail
off
to
the
prove it
mortgage.
was haunted.
But what if it was?
Then it's a free house.
That'd be awesome, hanging out with the ghosts.
What's up, ghosts? How you doing?
All right. That was kind of a long rant, but I think it's relevant because mountain biking is a sport and sports are games, and it's Tuesday night.
Uh-huh. Okay. Shall we do some news type action?
I guess we got some news. I mean, unless we want to talk about Civ 4, but I think we're going to do a show
that
on
next
Civ
time.
4.
We'll do that next time. Yeah, so there's been a lot happening in the plastic instrument world lately.
Yeah, I think Scott was the one who posited on the forums that if any game has the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and Queen in it simultaneously, it will be the winner.
Yeah, I mean, because check out, here's the problem, right? You've actually got competition, actual competition going on between now 3 plastic instrument game makers. See, the original plastic instrument game was, well, plastic instrument and rhythm game king was Konami. And Konami is still the king with the DDR and the Beatmania. But they did Guitar Freaks way back in the day.
Yes, which was one of those proof of concept, but no one liked it. Well, a few people liked it, and they liked it a lot.
Yeah. And then Guitar Hero came along, and that was like, oh, okay, now we got a guitar game that's actually, quality.
And if you want our thoughts on Guitar Hero, I think we reviewed Guitar Hero 3.
Anyway, the point is, the Rock Band came along and added the drums. But now the Guitar Hero's coming along again. The next, well, forgetting about the DS one, we don't give a shit about that, even though it's available today, and I don't recommend it. It looks really dumb. I have very low confidence in it.
I know who's buying that. Reviewers and grandmas who hear about Guitar Hero and buy it for their kid or their grandkid.
Yeah, I can see that being like the punk kids' Guitar Hero. Anyway, right. So the next Guitar Hero is gonna have drums. And they're actually better than the Rock Band drums. There's only going to be 3, normal top-wise drums instead of Rock Band's 4. But it looks like the pedal is superior, and there's 2 cymbals. But you can sort of hold the cymbals to, do cool stuff, like hit the cymbal and then, grab it with your hand to make it stop. That kind of thing.
The drum kit to me is the only part that matters because to me personally, Guitar Hero was awesome until I actually owned it and played it more than transiently, and that game is not fun and not worth it, and not
it's still fun.
It's not really fun.
It is.
Rock Band is a lot more fun, even guitar wise.
It is.
That's because Guitar Hero 3 turned into what DDR 7th mix turned into.
Yep, that's exactly right. Guitar Hero 2 is a lot more like the 4th mix plus of Guitar Heroes.
Yeah, but the drum sets in these games are the only instrument, with the exception of singing, that has a chance of translating into real skill. Playing drums in a game like, I guess Drum Hero, if someone ever makes one, or any of these games, will make you a decent, entry-level drummer. You'll learn real drumming technique.
Yeah, the problem is real drums are not set up in quite that position, so you sort of have to...
Actually, I won't get into it. Drum sets are a complicated topic in and of themselves.
They are quite indeed.
But learning basic rhythms and basic
I've always been interested in because in a drum set, every one of those drums is like its own separate thing, and they just sort of put them all near each other. And I've always sort of wondered, why don't people put them in different places?
They do. There's whole different philosophies of different. I'm not even going to get into it, but there's all these different philosophies and names, and you could use the blah 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 method, which gives you better access to your cymbals. Some people use the double or the triple thumpers, and
yeah, it's interesting stuff there, the drums. Anyway,
not to qualify that, I can't drum worth a goddamn.
Me either. I can drum with one drum.
Yeah, well, actually,
I can do a bass drum, the kind
Can you really?
Yeah.
Can you really?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I got the good rhythms, and all you got to do is hit it to the rhythms.
Yeah, but you got to use both hands simultaneously, sometimes with different rhythms.
Yeah, I could do that.
All right.
I'm kidding.
Play some quads. Quints? Anyway, Scott
no,
is
I can't
drumming.
do quads. All right, so, right. So Guitar Hero is really upping the drums and upping the guitar, and from the information we have, their drums and guitars are actually technically superior to what Rock Band has now.
But
we don't know what Rock Band's doing, but they've got to do some sort of improvements.
It's just going to be an arms race until eventually the game will come with a piece of Freddie Mercury's rotted corpse.
Maybe. The Konami, who made the original Guitar Freaks and DDR and Beatmania and such, they're actually coming with their own drums and shit
now,
up out of nowhere.
This is crazy to me. The only explanation is, 1, Konami is crazy. Or 2, they are going to come in with the artillery that's going to wipe everyone else out of that market.
Well, we'll see, because Konami has the rhythms, but I don't know if they have the music or the equipments, because even though Konami has made the great rhythm games in the past, like DDR, their equipment for said games has always been lackluster.
Well, except
in the arcades.
DDR.
Konami should really make a new drum set type thing for the arcade.
No, you
to
know
sort
what
of
Konami
kick out
should
that
do?
stupid MTV Drumscape thing that's everywhere.
That game is awful.
It is.
You know what Konami could... If I were Konami, I would pick a winner. I'd pick one of the two and make a deal with them to license their game into the official arcade cabinet.
All right, now here, the reason I want to talk
And
about...
then, no. I would sell these cabinets to bars and karaoke clubs.
Yep.
There's so much money to be made there, Konami.
Yeah,
so much money.
Because Konami can make the arcade machines. Well, actually, Red Octane, Harmon, whoever can also make the arcade machines. They made the In the Grooves, remember?
Yeah, but...
So they could do it as well.
I can't fault In the Groove because the machines were amazing. The game played like it was made by fanboys.
It was indeed.
Which was not immediately apparent to us. In the Groove was the awesomest thing until we played it for the second year in a row.
Right. So, the reason I want to talk about this is because it's a great example of who uses open systems and who uses closed systems. See, Konami came out and they said, there should be a standard for these plastic instruments so people don't have to rebuy it. And of course, that's what's best for the consumer because an open standard is always best for the consumer, right? But the Guitar Hero and Rock Band people said, no. Well, Rock Band people have always said, well, it's the Guitar Hero's people's fault. It's not compatible. And the Guitar Hero people just don't say anything.
Huh.
Right. So basically, this is a perfect example because, look, when you're the most popular guy in town, right? Let's say you're the Guitar Hero guy, right? You don't want your plastic instruments to be compatible with other people's games. You know why?
Sunk cost.
Because, well, no. If you're the most popular game in town, people are going to buy your shit, right? If you make your instruments work with other people's stuff, then people will buy those other games instead of your game. So if they can, that actually
that's
gives...
it. I guess when I said sunk cost, I should have been more clear. If someone already owns one plastic drum set, they're not going to buy a second plastic drum set.
Exactly. Well, they're much less likely to buy a second plastic drum set.
We're excluding college kids.
Right. Therefore, if you
oh my God.
What?
I said college kids.
All right.
Because I'm not a college kid anymore.
No, you're not. Let me finish my shit.
No.
So, if they make the drum set and the guitar a standard that anyone can do, then people can actually easily compete with them because everyone will buy the popular game, in the popular set, and then they'll buy whichever game actually ends up being the best game. If they don't make it an open thing, then people will buy theirs because it's the most popular. And then they won't buy any, they'll be much less likely to buy any of the others just because they don't want to sink their money into yet another plastic drum set.
And even aside from the money cost, owning multiple plastic drum sets, those things, where are you going to put it?
Right. Unless you have a lot of space.
Yeah.
The people who are down low, the losers in town, right, that were not so popular, they want there to be a standard. Because if there's a standard and everyone has the same drum set, whatever, then they can actually compete. People will be willing to buy their game and they will judge which rhythm game is the best rather than I'm buying the one that is most popular because that is the one that is most likely to give me the most value for my money, regardless of whether it's actually, the best game in the end.
Yeah, that's the saddest thing because an open standard would pretty much guarantee that whoever makes the best rhythm games would win.
Yeah, think about it. If there was an open standard, right, it wouldn't be I buy the drum set that works with the most popular game because that's the safe bet. It would be I buy the highest quality drum set. There'd be all this competition of who makes the best ones, but they're all the same in terms of the feature set.
Kind of like in DDR pads back in the day where you could buy the $15 eBay specials that
DDR
lasted
pads,
2 weeks.
Because DDR pads are just normal PlayStation controllers and whatnot, right? There's open competition and there's different people making DDR pads and some of them are better than others and some of them are more expensive than others.
Until Red Octane pretty much came in and said, look, it's done.
It is done.
Here you go.
Yep.
It's either this or the arcade.
Yep. But anyway, yeah. The other thing is that there's sort of speculation going on that there might be some Beatles action in the next round of games. We'll see what comes of that. That's all I can say.
I feel like that would really only fit Rock Band.
It would because, the Beatles played guitars, but then again, the next Guitar Hero is going to have some drums. We'll see if it has singing.
But at the same time, the whole Guitar Hero thing, it's always guitar solo, rock, metal, something. I don't know. There's no guitar solos in the Beatles.
Well, there are.
Well,
but
not like that.
No.
No squeedlies and meadlies.
There are some occasional, but it's not like metal squeedlies and meadlies. It is totally a different kind of thing. And
I think we should call them something different.
If you want to simulate the Beatles experience for fun, it really needs to be a full 4-piece set action.
Yeah.
Vocals, guitar, bass, drums, the whole thing. You know. Plus,
don't
I mean,
know.
if you can only play guitar and drums in the next Guitar Hero, and there's no singing or anything, all right, then what if you want to be George? You sort of left out. It's like
Plus, I feel as though Guitar Hero had a lot of momentum and a lot of style and a lot of class, and everything was going for him. And then in Guitar Hero 3, it's like they didn't understand what made their games popular.
Well, no, it's because that was actually made by different people. The people who made Guitar Hero 1 and 2 left and made Rock Band.
Yes, exactly. But the people making the decisions for the brand didn't understand what made it popular, which was one, those developers, and two, that style.
Right. Oh, well. Things are okay. It'll turn out. I think in the end, I mean, I don't really have a huge need to play Plastic Instruments games so much anymore. I mean, I have Guitar Hero 3 and I have Plastic Guitar for it, and that sort of sates any desire I might have, for pretty much a long time. So until there's like a full, this is the be-all, end-all, I can just refrain from buying any of these things, and maybe I can play it at conventions or something, to test them out, see which ones are good, which ones are bad.
All right, so I'm not going to talk about this very long, but I have to bring it up because it's been poking around in the forums, simmering, if you will, smoldering under... All right, enough of that. The Pyro. They added weapons to you.
Why do you keep talking about this?
Because
it feels like this is always what you talk about.
There's no other video game news I want to talk about, and because I realized what I must do.
All right.
So basically, the whole deal here, for the people who don't seem to understand, of what it is that bothers us, and specifically me, about this whole achievement getting weapons thing in Team Fortress 2, is that originally, when Team Fortress 2 first came out, it was fun, but I realized right away that the game was not going to be a, quote, hardcore, team-based, capture-the-flag, first-person shooter. That's quite a qualified genre there, but I think it's an existing genre.
It is an existing genre that is sort of...
It's a genre that's had like 3 games.
It's down there with the adventure games, pretty much. In fact, I think it's lower than the adventure games because there's been a recent adventure game resurgence.
I mean, if you can differentiate between all these different kinds of metal, then I can differentiate between all the different kinds of team-based FPSs. But the hardcore, what I just said, really, I don't know if it's viable in the modern world, and I don't blame T-Fortress for not being Weapons Factory or Mega TF, because that kind of game, I don't know if there's a market for it anymore.
I think there would be, as long as you streamline the interface. You could still keep the gameplay, but if the interface of olden days cannot stick around, if you had a modern interface on that game, it would totally work.
We'll get to that in a minute. Because while in the end, and this is after a lot of play, and I can pretty much speak in a qualified manner now without having to say, well, we'll have to see how it all turns out, Team Fortress 2 was not that game. But what it had going for it was that it could be a good game in and of itself in a genre that is separate from that, emphasizing the team-based part a lot more and de-emphasizing the first-person shooter part.
The problem is the maps reduced all decisions to obvious.
Yes, the game things that are winning with the game, the style. I've said this before. We keep saying it. I'll never say it again because I don't think it needs to be said again. The style of Team Fortress 2 is full of win to a degree that I cannot express to you. It is so perfect.
The interface was also really terrific compared to pretty much every other FPS that's ever existed. It was actually accessible and it worked.
The style and the interface and all that stuff was there. The only problems with the game were that the maps were too small for strategy or FPSing to matter. The weapons were too inaccurate for FPSing to matter. When I say matter, I mean matter in the quote-unquote hardcore, full-on way. The skill caps were pretty low. And beyond all that, everyone really only had one weapon.
Yep.
And like one special ability that was kind of weak. So as a result, there weren't a lot of strategic options, and there weren't a lot of FPS skill options, and the maps were so small that the game ended up being very not fun if you were good at FPSs at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you play, Team Fortress 2, I mean, at the day it came out, and you actually had coordinated, intelligent teams, it was pretty much going to be a stalemate, where only randomness would decide because the maps are so small that the optimal strategy is obvious, and it's just a matter of getting everyone to actually do it.
I mean, if you're playing an 8-on-8, there is an absolute perfect defense for the capture the flag 2 fort.
Yep.
But skipping all that, I was of the mind that all you had to do was either, now, depending on which direction you went, it's like each of these things would have taken the game in a different direction. I think all of them could have been good. If they had made the maps a lot bigger and a lot more varied and a lot more open and made a lot more capture the flag maps,
Yeah.
then the game was great. Because when they made CTF well, that map was amazing. And I suddenly had all this new hope for the game. And then pretty much no one played that map after the first 2 weeks. And now it's pretty much gone.
Great.
So, all right. Or if they had given everyone one more weapon, one more special ability, one more tactical decision to make. It didn't need to be the hardcore craziness of having 8 different kinds of grenades and 4 different shotguns, but one more thing, and everything would have been great. It would have added a lot of strategery and a lot of tacticality to make up a bunch of perfectly cromulent words.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have even made up for the low skill cap on the straight up FPS end. It wouldn't have been a hardcore FPS, but it would have been a hardcore team-based strategy game that happens to be first person.
As long as they change up the maps, too.
Yes, but even if they had just done that, like all these little things would have fixed it. So suddenly I find out that they're doing the last of those. They're giving everyone one more thing or 2 more things. But then they pull this bullshit on me that I have to level up to get them. That now the game is stateful as opposed to stateless. And that wasn't even in my conception. This is this brand new, it's like they took the game that was in a genre. It was a team-based, first-person, nominally strategic game, and they pulled it out of that, and they made it something different. It's in a different genre of game to the point that I don't know what to do with it anymore. Because I played with the new Pyro, the backburner, the thing where you can shoot air. That added so much I cannot express to you how much that adds to the game strategically. It almost made capture the flag on 2 Fort viable.
Mm-hmm.
Almost. Even with the crappy map design, it was viable.
Yep.
But no, I have to level up to get the flare gun and extinguisher and all these other things. And basically, I don't need to say why. I've said why a million times, but they've taken a game that was an even, stateless, first-person, team-based game, and they made it uneven and stateful. And the unevenness is decided solely by the arbitrary amount of time you spend leveling up by getting these achievements. And I guess I'm ranting here, so I'll wrap it up. I don't even care about the achievements. I'm not Scott. Achievements are great. Go nuts. The problem is when the achievements matter for what otherwise was a stateless multiplayer versus game. The fact, it doesn't matter that the weapons may not be technically 100% better than the weapons that you get if you haven't leveled up. They're different. They're different enough to matter. If they're not different enough to matter, there's no reason to have them. And everyone says they are. I've played a little bit. They definitely are. But by forcing you to level up to get them, you've made the game stateful. It's not fair or balanced anymore, and I don't know what to do.
Yep.
Anyway, to wrap all this up, I figured out what to do to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to just make a goddamn mod.
I think we do. Because water is poison, really. He pointed it out to me, and I didn't realize this before, right? All the FPSs that we really liked throughout history have all the multiplayer ones,
With
anyway.
the exception of Tribes 2.
With the exception of Tribes 2, have all been mods. Counter-Strike was a mod, even though it's not a mod now. It was a mod back in the day, originally.
Natural Selection, Action Quake, Weapons Factory, Mega TF, Team Fortress, Capture the Flag, Lithium Deathmatch. Hell, even Deathmatch was sucked and no one played it when it came out. People played Lithium Deathmatch, which was a mod.
Every game, every FPS that we have ever enjoyed in the history of the world, with the exceptions of Tribes 2 and maybe GoldenEye. Anna Rim doesn't like GoldenEye, though.
I liked GoldenEye when it was out.
All right, with the exception of those two, every FPS ever that wasn't single player that we liked was a mod. Team Fortress 2 is not a mod. It's not. And I realized that, hey, we just have to mod it because it's not what we want is never going to happen. All we need to do is we need to make bigger maps. So we need map making action. We need to make better maps. 2, we need to make everything faster. So we have to keep the ratios of speed the same. The Scout should still be twice as fast as, or 4 times as fast as the Heavy or however much. But everyone's speed needs to be raised equally. That way, you have to have faster reaction times and whatnot. You need to make, if we can, we should make the models a little smaller. If we can't do that, bigger maps should be enough.
Yep. Also, you got to make the hitboxes smaller.
Yeah, if we can do that. And make all the weapons more accurate. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to hit anything.
And beyond that, I've got two minds. I'm not sure which way to go with this yet, but either make the game in this kind of Team Fortress, the way they were originally designed the game, balanced and clean methodology where every class has a very small, very specific subset of strategies and weapons, or go all out and try Scott's idea of what if you make a modern hardcore FPS. And I think Weapons Factory was the last team-based, that whole thing I said before, that long string of words. If you made that, but you took the style and mostly the interface of Team Fortress, so it doesn't completely suck to play the game if you're not a stupid nerd who sits there for an hour scripting.
I definitely think that it's, the best way to go right now would just be to take Team Fortress 2 in its state, unlock all the achievements, so everyone gets all the weapons, right? So we'd have to wait for them to make the weapons for the rest of the classes, because, you don't want, this bullshit where they put it out for one class at a time. No, because that's no good. It's got to be every class has the same amount of stuff, right? Then, bigger maps, up the speed, up the accuracy, and that should be good enough, right?
At least to start. I mean, as has been proven by CTF well, bigger maps alone make the game twice as good immediately.
Yep.
Just bigger maps with more paths, to the point that there is no optimal defense or offense. And then everything else is just icing on the cake from there.
Yep.
So, I'm not going to talk about Team Fortress 2 again. Kind of like how Jack Thompson put the kibosh on that. I don't think he'll ever... Remember my rule. I can't talk about Jack Thompson unless he tops himself by an order of magnitude. And he hasn't yet. Team Fortress 2, I'm not talking about until we or someone we know stop shit-talking. Well, I guess we haven't shit-talked yet, but we're going to be shortly. And starts modding Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start writing up my RFC for the hardcore.
You don't need an RFC for this.
I want an RFC.
No, it's not an RFC.
I want to define the parameters that specify how to
but
make
it's not an RFC,
a
it's a spec
hardcore,
doc.
team-based, multiplayer, stateless, capture the flag, first-person shooter.
It's a spec doc, or it's not an RFC. An RFC is the wrong kind of document.
But anyway, things of the day. Things of the day. All right. So, I'm going to totally cop out here, but I think it's relevant because we talked about Bimani, and I've been really feeling the DDR groove lately.
I've also been feeling the DDR
My
groove.
desire to play DDR has been rising constantly. Despite this, the floor in our living room is not strong enough to support us, and playing on the deck isn't really an option.
That's sort of the reason I also haven't gotten Wii Fit or anything.
Yeah, but I really want to play DDR. And if you really want to play DDR, I recommend you watch these two videos, which I don't think
it's
have ever
DDR
been
season, that's for sure.
Things of the day. DJ 8Ball is perhaps my favorite freestyler. You see, there are two ways to play DDR. Well, three ways. One is the fanboy shuffle, and you suck. Two is playing to do really well with all your friends. And three is playing not to get perfect scores, but to show off for anyone who's watching. That is my favorite way of dancing. It'll always will be. Messing around on the machine is so much more fun than trying to get a AAA whatever.
Plus, it hurts a lot less.
Yeah, well, depending.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do.
Yeah. Or if you fail at doing.
Plus,
Yep.
Now, who that is? My baby's mom. Okay. DJ 8Ball is famous for one, being awesome. For two, exemplifying everything I love about DDR. Three, for the Nintendo Foot, which you'll see in Cafe, which is also one of my favorite DDR songs. And four, for pretending that he had a leg injury for the time up to a tournament, deciding to go on anyway in a show of good faith and effort and for a cheer from the crowd, walking up with his crutch cane, revealing at the last second that he is not in fact injured at all, and then doing his routine with the cane.
Yep.
He is my hero.
Yeah, DJ 8Ball, he was pretty terrific. He's kind of old schooling with the DDR back in the 3rd, 4th mix days. I don't know if he's still around. Maybe he'll find us from the show or something.
Yeah, I mean, our DDR...
There are other DDR freestyle people who are equally awesome, and we're not disrespecting them.
No, but we are definitely, people have different styles of DDR. Our style is the 3rd mix Korean through 5th mix style.
That's right.
That is where we live, and that is our home.
4th mix plus being the pinnacle of all DDR.
Oh, God.
It always will be.
I don't know. I can't express to you how much I would love to own a 4th mix plus machine. machine.
I would pay $2,000.
Sadly, they cost about $8,000.
Well, more than one bicycle. Okay. So check this out. There was a Wii update this week that changed a few things around. Nothing really exciting, but all those people who are doing the Wii homebrew with the Twilight hack, they were like, "Oh no, this broke our Twilight hacks. Sorrow." Well, in a very short amount of time, they broke the hacks. In other words, you can hack your Wii again. Not only can you hack your Wii again, there's a video here that was posted that I watched that shows how ludicrously easy it is to hack the Wii and get your own. Basically, you put this homebrew channel on your Wii, and then the homebrew channel can read programs you put on your SD card, and then you can run programs on the Wii through the SD card, and they demonstrate Quake 1 played with the Wiimote and such. And I think I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it.
Now, what's the sudden turn about? How come you're suddenly interested in this?
Because I saw a video and it's so stupidly easy, and Nintendo didn't update, and the update didn't ruin anyone's Wiis, even though it sort of broke them for like a little bit. So I'm feeling like it's pretty safe. Like, I'm not gonna say it's safe, 100%. You do risk losing your Wii forever, but why not? I can make the Wii pretty awesome, and I don't think it's gonna hurt.
Now, it bothers me that Nintendo doesn't want this to happen and isn't embracing this sort of development because, I guess I'm not surprised, but why Nintendo? Why must you, at every opportunity, fall just one step short of true glory? They're always one step short of making the perfect console, the perfect game, the perfect everything.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but the thing is...
It's like, I've got this thing here, and this... It's like trying to think of something that can demonstrate the unfulfilled potential. It's like if you had a Ferrari, right? And the Ferrari could go 200 miles an hour and had 6 gears. And whenever you drove it, you only got up to 5th gear, and then you sort of slowed down. You never used that 6th gear. You never went to the max speed of the Ferrari. You're just sort of like, yeah, we got it, but we're not going to use our full strength. Oh, you haven't seen my full strength. You know what? I'm not going to suddenly reveal my full strength in the last episode like I should. I'm just never going to reveal it, ever, at all. I don't need it. And it's like, oh, you bastards, I need that full strength. I can see that full strength right there.
So, tonight, over the weekend, of course, the Visigoths came out. They didn't goth up the house too much. It was
because they weren't here as much as they were in the past.
Because we moved the game over to Alex's apartment. But we played our Burning Wheel. And among other things, Scott Johnson and Laura brought a couple of games. Some political game that... while it was dumb, it ended up being great.
Only because it was late at night and we're never playing it again.
Also because a lot of silly things happened due to the way the rules were.
Yeah, broken rules.
Yes, but sometimes maybe it's weird, but people like us, people are really into these kind of hardcore rules, lawyery, specific, real German strategy games. When a game's rules are actually broken, and broken in a crazy way, it's almost entertaining in and of itself to play that game anyway, trying to break the game and enjoying the chaos that ensues.
Well, think about it, right? The rules of a board game are the words written in the book that comes with the game.
Do you understand the words that are written in this book?
The rules of a video game are the code, the code that is written to create the software, the zeros and ones on the game disc or in the install or wherever.
Thus, putting a board game in a weird state is like getting into the minus world in Mario 1.
Exactly. It's like, basically, the definition of cheating is if you break the rules. So if you do something to a video game that either, modifies the code, which is basically like taking an eraser to the rule book and writing your own rules, that's cheating. Or doing something that goes against the software somehow, like a Game Genie. Well, I guess that's sort of rewriting. But anyway, that is cheating in a video game. And a board game, doing something that is contradictory to the words written in the book is cheating.
It's also sadly trivial. All right, I move. Hey, everyone's a queen. Let's see what happens.
Monopoly. Yay! I'll just put my guy on Boardwalk. Yeah, I know it's the first turn of the game, and I couldn't have possibly rolled that high a number, but whatever. No, so
that's how I roll.
That's how I roll. I roll my D100 from Monopoly. I wish. Okay, make the game maybe actually good. Right. We want to play Monopoly with like 2 D20s.
I think it would have to be 2 D20s. We'd have to look at the board, right? and turn it into a circular graph, and then figure out a probability curve of rolls that would make the auctions the most fair they can be.
So in a video game, you can sometimes do things that aren't cheating. They're perfectly within the software's, rules and software's ability that the game is. But they're not sort of intended. You sort of break the game in a way. Like in Metroid 1 is great examples of doing door, wall, ball jump things to go to, rooms, or in Mario 64 where you're scooting up the stairs real fast and beating the game in 9 minutes. You're not cheating. You're doing something that is within the rules of the game because the software of the game is the rules of the game, but you're still it's not intended. And you can do the same with board games. The rules of the board game, either in word or in spirit, intend for you to do one thing, but by being a lawyer and by following the words in the rule book to the letter, you can sort of glitch the board games and get away. And that usually
we might be the only people in the world who find amusement in doing this.
Well, it's usually also the sign of a very bad board game because poorly written rules is usually a bad game, and you usually only play it once because it gets really stupid.
But it was some funny situations came up and infinitely passed around cards, and early on we almost broke the game by everyone passing.
Yep. All right.
So, but the other game they brought over that we did in fact play was none other than Shadows Over Camelot.
Now, Shadows Over Camelot is a game that we had...
Schatten über Camelot.
Right. It's a game we had played once before.
The Chevalier de la Table Ronde.
It's also a
Thank you, Wikipedia.
It's also a very popular game. It gets talked about a lot. And, it's got that popular King Arthur theme, and it's got a pretty high production value, and it's sold even in little tiny game stores. So we figured, hey, we've played this game twice. We pretty much know everything there is to know about this game now. Let's do a show on it.
Yep. Now, we played this game once a long time ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
That was years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
That was back when we...
A little over a year ago.
That was back when we used to go to Moz to play board games. And those two cool people were there who we haven't seen since that fateful night.
Yep.
Which is kind of sad because they were really cool.
They were all right.
We actually went over to their apartment and played board games.
Yep.
And there was a
Shadows
bird
Over
there.
Camelot.
Yes, and we brought Pete along as well.
Yeah, we did.
That was a good time. We also played, what other game did we play with them? Starfarers of Catan.
Yeah, Starfarers of Catan.
Yeah, that was a good time. Even though that game was also broken.
But I really like those little quest cards, but once you memorize them, forget it.
But it's still a fun game once, kind of like this. So Shadows Over Camelot, if you don't know, is one of those beat the game games where everybody cooperates to kind of beat this pre-set up or semi-random board. But like many of these games, because most games have this element, there's also the possibility of the traitor or the bad guy or one player saying, fuck all y'all, I win, you all lose, the board loses too.
Yep. That's good stuff. So, yeah,
Lord of the Rings, I think it was impossible, but I tried every single time I had the ring at the end of the game.
Yeah. But basically, the game, right? The board is in some sort of, position. It's in some configuration. And the goal of the game is to get the board into a different configuration, which is winning. And you don't want the board to go into the bad configuration, which is losing. Now, all the players work together to get the board into the good configuration. And the rules of the game sort of force the board to always fight against you on its own. You keep flipping over cards that do bad things, and such.
Now, we'll hold off until we're going to review Shadows Over Camelot first, because that's the important part. But we're going to we're not going to talk much about what it means to be a beat the game, or kind of exactly what that entails in the end for gaming as a whole, because, I mean, if you really break it down, all beat the game games are just state machines, and they end up being not fun unless you have a lot of kind of meta elements there.
Right. So in Shadows Over Camelot, you're all the kings of King Arthur's, the knights of King Arthur's court.
Yes, you're not the kings.
And King
There's
Arthur.
only one king, King Arthur.
And there's a bunch of quests about to go on. The quest for the Holy Grail, the quest for Excalibur,
the quest for Lancelot's armor,
the quest against the Red Dragon, which appears after you get or don't get Lancelot's armor.
Gotta go get Excalibur. Meanwhile, the Picts and the
Saxons.
Saxons,
The Picts and the Saxons are constantly coming after Camelot, and you have to constantly fight them off. The Black Knight always wants to joust, and you have to keep jousting him.
Guinevere is a total bitch.
Guinevere is a total bitch. There are there's siege engines piling up outside of Camelot, and you have to once in a while someone has to go out and destroy a bunch of them.
Meanwhile,
because if too many of them appear, Camelot will be destroyed.
There's a good chance that one of the knights sitting at King Arthur's table is in fact a traitor,
and he'll turn on Camelot and he'll start making siege engines and other evil stuff like that.
Now the goal of the game is pretty cool. Basically, one, there's a couple of ways where the game can just fuck you, it's over, you lose. But other than that, pretty much there are white swords and black swords, and as you complete quests, you get certain arbitrary numbers of white swords to place around King Arthur's table. But if you lose a quest, you get black swords to place around King Arthur's table. The majority wins in the end. Black swords majority, the traitor, if there is a traitor, wins, or else the board wins. White swords, everybody but the traitor wins.
Yep. There might not be a traitor, because this actually, the way the traitor works is that there are 7 players in the game, and there are 8 loyalty cards, and one of them is the traitor, so no one might be the traitor.
Now, of course, my brilliant idea, sometime if I'm running this game for people, or I know some people who are going to play it.
Intentionally leave the traitor card out?
No, even better.
Put 2 traitor cards in?
I want to replace all the loyalty cards with traitors and watch how the game progresses, because it's basically going to be a bunch of players all thinking they're clever and wondering why no one has figured them out.
Yeah, everyone's trying to do quests, but failing miserably at them on purpose, or sort of not doing them very well, and then everyone's sort of not caring. And
I'm curious how long it would go on before people realize what was going on.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would make it to the end.
The traitor element is really the only thing that keeps this game viable.
Yes, because I'll say this, without the traitor, Shadows Over Camelot is worth playing at most twice.
Nunce.
It's worth playing once.
I say without the traitor, nunce.
Well, you have this weird thing against these sort of games. I think a lot of them are worth playing once.
I guess, just to see.
The Lord of the Rings game was really fun the first time I played it.
The game was bad.
It was fun.
The rules were written even the worst.
Yes,
Those
were.
are some of the worst rules I've ever seen.
The only problem with that game
worse than Hellas, I'd even say,
was that I was determined to beat it. I remember the day we beat that game. I ran around screaming. Anyway, so basically all that happens is every knight has a different power. Like Galahad can do something, and Palmades can do something else, and King Arthur can do something else, and like everyone has their special ability and their life bar. And you start in King Arthur's court, and every round you can either draw white cards or go off to a quest. And once you're at a quest, you can't draw any more white cards until you go back to King Arthur's court.
Right, and you sort of need white cards to do the quest. So it's a game of go to the court, draw a bunch of white cards, take your white cards, go out, do a quest, hope you have the white cards to beat the quest, or that other things might happen, like King Arthur can trade cards with you and such to beat the quest. And when you beat the quest, you get white swords, and you get other goodies, return back to the court, get some more white cards, go out and do another quest. And at the beginning of every person's turn, they have to progress the evil somehow, which means either they put a siege engine out there.
Yep,
they lose
an
health.
arbitrary number of siege engines immediately ends the game.
Right, they lose health.
You can die.
A knight can die, and sometimes a knight might want to sacrifice themselves if it means that everyone wins the game, because it is a cooperative beat the game. So if somehow you can beat the game by every knight killing themselves except for one knight, because if hopefully not the traitor is the last guy,
because that is a victory condition for the traitor.
Yeah, if everyone's dead but the traitor. But if there's, if you can kill everyone off and still win, you win, even if you're dead, as long as there's one non-traitor left alive. Or you can draw a black card, and a black card pretty much makes evil happen. And depending on the black card, a different evil happens. It might be a general evil that sort of fucks everyone. It might be a quest-specific evil, so that you might draw a Black Knight card, which means you one step closer to losing the Black Knight quest. And if you draw a lot of Black Knight cards, someone better go over to the Black Knight quest and complete it, or else we're gonna lose it, and we're gonna get some black swords, which is bad.
Now, the strategy and the fun and everything in the game is pretty much that you have to juggle all of these quests among yourselves and try to win the game, obviously, but the juggling is really important. I mean, say some people are working on the Excalibur and some people are working on this and that, and then it looks like Lancelot quest isn't going so well and no one's there. Oh crap, we got to do something or Lancelot's armor's gone forever. Or, oh crap, we're going to lose the Holy Grail. That fucks us.
Yeah, and there's some quests, mostly the Lancelot quest and the Holy Grail quest and the Excalibur quest. Those 3 quests, if you succeed at those quests, you get the Holy Grail or Excalibur or Lancelot's armor, and if you get those, they can help you out a lot. But if the traitor gets those, he can sort of fuck you over because he takes them out of the game and goes, ha ha ha.
Yep, and then all the other quests kind of repeat, like the Saxons keep coming and keep coming. And pretty much you let them build up, but then you got to go deal with them, because if they build up fully before you deal with them, well, they plop down a bunch of siege engines and it's not good.
Think of it as sort of like the game is sort of like you're in a boat that's taking on water, and you have to keep bailing it out. And if you can bail it out enough so that you can get to shore, you win. But if it sinks, you lose. And everyone's in this boat together, except there's one person on the boat there might be a person on the boat who wants it to sink, and they want everyone to drown.
The game is really, really expertly balanced in that, traitor or no, you will always, pretty much, it seems, and people reading reports of other people playing confirm this, you'll get real close to losing, and then you'll either fight and fight and fight and eventually lose, or come back on strong and win. But the game always kind of really, like, you feel like you're always falling behind, and you're always falling behind, and you're losing, and you're fucked, and oh my god. And, like, the balance of the game in terms of drawing it out and the enjoyment is really, really there.
Yeah. As opposed to something like Arkham Horror or the Lord of the Rings game, which just kick your ass and make you feel like, oh, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Shadows Over Camelot really feels kind of even. You're never like, yeah, I'm kicking this game's ass, because then it would be boring, but you're never like, oh, this sucks so bad, it's just wasting my time.
The game does a good job of making you feel like you're completely fucked and you're about to lose and everything is falling down, and yet you'll barely scrape by, and then you'll win in the end with some big, everybody does something awesome and you win all of a sudden.
I think it's really the way the game is abstracted is like, you know, the quest will look like, you know, you look at the Holy Grail quest and you see a bunch of black grails lined up and you're like, oh, despair
and desolation,
you know, and then you'll see like a bunch of picks coming in and you're like, oh, the picks is gonna be so bad. But then, you know, you sort of play it through and you're sort of suffering and you're hungry for cards, you don't have enough cards, someone has to go back to Camelot to get more cards. You're like, but in the end you get like a bunch of white swords, maybe a couple black ones, and you're like, I got it. All right.
Now, in terms, I mean, there's special cards and all this sort of stuff, but the quests themselves are pretty much like, go there and discard cards until you win, or go there with a full house and put it down and hope your numbers beat the hand that the Black Knight's gonna have.
Yeah, it's really a game of action management, and in addition to the card management. In fact, the action management more so. Like, I was playing the character who could move for free, right? So most people spend a turn moving to a quest. I could just move to a quest and then get going right away. So it saves me a whole turn, which is huge.
Or like me, I was the Saracen Knight, Palmades. So my
Palamides. Like calamity?
Oh yeah, there's an A there. All right, Palamides.
Yes.
You know what? He's a Saracen, which I feel conflicted about.
All right.
But my power was that I can get life back, and it was totally lame.
Yeah. No, but you can. So let's say this is the Grail quest, right? And let's say we need 10 Grail cards to beat it. I've got 10 Grail cards. Well, it takes me an action to go there. Then I can play one card per turn, but we might also be drawing evil Grail cards that may basically, you know, set us back. So it's like,
now, that's the thing that makes the game always feel on the edge of defeat, that like the way you draw these bad cards and kind of the allocation and the distribution, in short order, a quest that you think you've got a handle on will suddenly spiral out of control, and you're moments from losing the Grail, and everyone's got to kind of pull together and buck up.
Yep. Anyway, so the thing in this game is there's one major flaw, and that is in the restrictions it puts on communication. And
yes.
Let me give you an example.
This is the, I mean, if nothing else, I feel like this alone takes an otherwise pretty serviceable game and a fun game and just ruins it for me.
Right. So let me try to explain the flaw here. Let's say, for example, it's my turn, right? On my turn, I draw a black card. Let's say I pick it up, I look at it. I'm not supposed to show it to anyone, right? But these are all my teammates, but I'm not supposed to show them this card. And the card says, let's say it says Black Knight 8. That's pretty bad, because that means I have to put this on the Black Knight, and it's really strong. And it means that if someone goes to fight the Black Knight...
So say Rim's already at the Black Knight, and I've got like 2 3s down, and you don't know what the other 3 cards I have that I'm going to be playing are.
The Black Knight only takes 4 cards.
Whatever.
Anyway, so that means that if Rim doesn't have really high numbered fight cards, he's going to lose to the Black Knight, because this is a really big number. And if we're going to lose to the Black Knight, we're better off not wasting our turns fighting it. We're going to lose it anyway, right?
But Scott, I mean, I can't tell Scott what's in my hand.
No, he can't tell me what kind of fight cards he has.
Let's kind of let's show you an example of what these bullshit conversations are. So Scott draws the card and he looks at it.
So I have to say it's a high one. I'm not allowed to say if it's an 8. I have to say it's high, middle, or low. That's all I'm allowed to say according to the rule book.
Yes, to which I can say, all right, do you think I can pull it off? I can't say that I've got 3 6s in my hand left to go or 2 1s in my hand left to go.
There are no 6s, it's 5.
I'm totally just making up numbers to prove a point. God. But I can't say anything. I pretty much have to say, well, do you think I can do it? And he can't really answer that question. He can pretty much say, yeah, it's high. Yeah, you can probably, maybe. And here's the deal. Everyone I ever see play this game, they pretty much, like, people look at each other and signal and table talk and basically break the rules with this illusion or this nod to not breaking the rules.
And here's the problem, right? If you decide, fuck the rules, we're going to say whatever we want because we're cooperating, then the game becomes stupid because you just win. There's no way to lose unless you're morons because everyone will know exactly what's on all the cards are. There's one person who has the secret ability. They get to look at the next black card and decide whether to draw it or not. And they can basically say, oh, it's bad or it's not so bad or whatever. But if we know exactly what it is, then we'd be like, oh, we can deal with that. Okay, draw it. Or, no, we can't deal with that. Don't draw it. I mean, you'd basically, what to do would be an obvious decision and you'd win every time.
And it's not that if they would have just banned table talk and said, you can't say shit, then the game would have been really good.
It would have been okay.
Well,
but
here's the thing. If they'd done that, at least it wouldn't have been broken in this way where it's ambiguous as to what constitutes table talk. It's ambiguous if you're breaking the rules or not, and there's a lot of hinting and nodding and, don't put.
Yeah, someone who like needs Grail cards would be like, I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty.
That's bullshit. That's the same as saying, give me a Grail card, which you're not allowed to say. So why is saying I'm thirsty okay? Either it is or it isn't. These ambiguous rules break the game.
They sure do.
But if you don't let people table talk at all...
Yeah, let's say you made a rule where no one's allowed to talk, no one's even allowed to communicate. You play the game online and there's no chat room. You can't even look at each other.
The odds of winning become very low at this point.
It becomes pretty much impossible to win because how do you know who needs what? King Arthur's pretty much just got to guess who to give what cards to. The person who, draws the black card looks at it and puts it back, right? Well, maybe the next person, has no idea if it's kind of okay or really bad or whatever, so they just draw it anyway, and all of a sudden really bad happened, and there's nothing we could have done about it. We didn't have enough information. It's sort of like, everyone's playing blindfolded again, and the game becomes really stupid because basically winning comes down to luck.
The real problem is that the developers of this game, instead of coming up with an elegant solution to make the game balanced and fun and unambiguous and allow for the cooperative interaction that makes the game fall so deliciously into acrimony every time it gets played. I mean, that's the strength of the game, that everyone bickers and yells and argues and all that, but if they had been clever...
Yeah, that's the whole point of the traitor thing. I mean, how can you tell who's the traitor if there's no table talk?
And even if there aren't traitors, there's the, a knight is in charge of his own destiny. So the whole table can say, Rim, go do the Grail quest before we lose it. And I can say, fuck you all. I'm totally going to finish the Arthur quest, this quest first, the Lancelot quest, because I think it's a better move. I can do it and they can't stop me. Even if I'm not the traitor, I might just think I'm doing better.
Yep.
But because it's ambiguous, I feel as though the developers were lazy and decided not to bother coming up with some sort of elegant solution and just came up with this half-assed half measure.
What they should have done is they should have come up with a very specific list of things you may and may not say. Like, when you draw a black card, you can say either good, bad, or neutral. You're not allowed to say anything else. Or when you draw, when you want a card from King Arthur, you can, basically say, I would like a card.
Or
and
maybe
nothing else.
You have a hand of like 6 semi-generic statements, and you are allowed to reveal one on your turn.
Yeah, it's like on your turn, they're like, say, 6 communication cards. You
and
can
one
have
of them
any
is
one
like
of you can have any one of them face up at any time.
And like you can give one to a player, and like maybe one says you're proper fucked, and one says, oh shit's the Grail. I don't know.
And no one's allowed to talk or communicate in any way otherwise. No signaling, no gesturing, no winking, no talking. And then that, would sort of solve the problem because you wouldn't have the no communication making the game boring, not, less to go on to figure out who's the traitor and, stupidity and losing. But you wouldn't also have the open, vague communication that makes the game easy and you just win.
I feel as though this ambiguity of table talk alone takes this game and ruins it.
It sure does.
Like completely
because it's
ruins
otherwise an okay game.
Because
It's
despite
okay for a beat the game.
despite the busted rule in that regard and all that other stuff we talked about, I don't want to be unfair. The game is really fun for a couple of plays, and this is a great party game. This is a great game if you are hardcore into games and you have a lot of friends who aren't. If they're all over and you bust out this game and you teach it to them real quick and just run with it, it's a riot for people who aren't really, really into board gaming, and it's really fun for people who are into board gaming if you only play it once or twice.
The other problem with this game, right, is even if you, play by all the communication rules, really strictly and such, if everyone playing is like an expert and knows all the rules and knows how to play, it's pretty much impossible to lose unless the trader is super, super
Now,
clever,
this is
or unless your
actually
luck is really, really bad.
One thing that's very good about this game, I like this mechanic. I mean, we see this mechanic in Verrader,
Yep.
and we see this mechanic here. The idea of a trader. And in this game, the trader is what saves it, because if you play with expert players, the trader is the one thing that makes it possible for the game to be enjoyable among people who know the rules of the game and are good at the game in the future.
Yeah, if there was no trader, then expert players would win every time, even if they did,
If you
with
have
the limited communication.
So one, it's a great party game. Just like at a casual party, whip it out, play it, especially if people are drinking a little bit. The game will get really fun. People really get into it, might role play a little bit. Or find a group of 7 people and play this game like once a month with the same group of 7 people every time. Because then the trader aspect, it turns into a complex mafia. And that could save the game, but only if you like the game. If you don't like the game, don't try that. But if you think the game has potential and you're not put off by the table talk aspects we've brought up, that's how to save this game and make it playable in the long run.
The other thing is the game has a really high production quality. The boards are nice, the cards are nice, the box is nice.
The cards are real
The miniatures are nice, all the pieces are pretty
I'll
good.
warn you,
right?
though, that thing that looks like an expansion.
Yes, I got to tell you this. There is an expansion for this game. It's not really an expansion.
It's not what you think it is.
Basically, in the game, there are miniatures for each knight, right? There's one for King Arthur and one for everyone else. But they're not painted. They sell something that looks like an expansion to Shadows Over Camelot that's actually just replacements for all the knight miniatures. They're exactly the same as the ones that come with the game, only they're painted. And they're not painted that well either. And they charge money for this.
It's pretty sad.
Don't buy it by accident, unless you need like replacement pieces, which I highly doubt because they're kind of hard to lose.
Yes.
I think there might actually be other real expansions for the game, but I haven't looked into them, and I don't like additional quests. But I haven't looked into that, and I don't really know so much.
It's a good. I mean, this is a good game for one person in your circle of gaming friends to own.
Yep.
It's a good game to whip out at parties. It's a good game to go hardcore into with the trader. Other than that, it's kind of meh, and most of the meh is from one, unless you like beat the game games, it is a beat the game game, and if you don't like that sort of thing, you won't like it. And two, the table talk thing really, really hurts it a lot.
It does. It's pretty painful because you either feel like you're cheating or you feel like it's bullshit.
Despite that, the time we played it with the crew was really fun because one, Pete was totally the traitor and did a good job right up until the end. And two,
He didn't trade her enough. He could have done a lot more damage.
but two, Scott here, it was probably the first time in my life that he's complimented me because basically what he said was, Rim has to be the traitor because Rim has been playing kind of poorly, therefore he's obviously the traitor. And when everyone said, what the fuck, Scott, why? He said, it's Rim. It's a board game. The fuck do you think?
I was like, Rim's going to be... Well, because, I mean, I was looking at what you had, and I was like, if I had that, I would not be doing such shit moves like that. You know, and if you're doing shit moves that were obviously shit moves...
See, the thing is, having seen my full hand and not cheating and table talking, I was doing the best moves I could be doing.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, that's all we got to say about that. In general, beat the game games are World of Warcraft without the leveling.
Yep, pretty much.
That's pretty much it. If you like doing raids, you'll like beat the game games. But like raids, once you've done a raid a couple of times and you know how to beat it, beat the game games are no longer fun.
Yeah, beat the game games are actually very similar to, say, jigsaw puzzles.
Or cooperative games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're cooperative. See, the thing is, they're cooperative games such as Dracula, right? But even though it's 4 against 1, it's actually not a beat the game because there's actually a human being on the other end. Whereas in, say, Arkham Horror, there's no human being on the other end. It's set by the cards, and thus it is like solving a puzzle.
On a core level that doesn't, and at least for Dracula and a lot of these games, that doesn't really mean anything.
It means that there's actually a psychology to it and a different answer each time that is set by a human being rather than a set answer.
Well, the thing is, the set answer is still randomized by cards and things in Shadows Over Camelot.
I think
it's more that it adds...
But there is a set procedure.
It adds depth and complexity.
Yep.
Now, granted, Dracula fails on a number of fronts. But
it sure does.
It does not fail on the front that I always feel like I want to play it, even though I realize I don't after I'm playing it.
Yeah, well, it's mostly that the combat sucks, but the Dracula's hidden movement is awesome.
Yes, it is.
All right,
I think we're done.
Are we done?
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.